Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture, where I have with me Roland Mann and Tommy Florimonte from
Close enough.
Silverline Comics. So, welcome to the show. And before we dive too deep into this, I do need to mention my sponsor. I am sponsored today by the Heroes Tower, which is a subscription crate. They can be found on Instagram at all underscore undercapitalized. So, the underscore heroes underscore tower. And they can also be found on Cratejoy. And just to show you what you might get in your box, you might get this, which is a patch. There's a coffee cozy, a bunch of stickers, cool buttons, keychain, a lanyard, and you can get manga books, comic books, and all sorts of fun, cool stuff. That's just fun to have. It's not that expensive, and they're really good people, and they really try to do a wonderful job of giving you a bunch of cool items that you might not normally find. So check them out. Again, Instagram is the place to go. It's at all lowercase the underscore heroes underscore tower, and from there you'll be able to get everything you got. So guys, welcome to the show.
How's
Thank
it
you.
going?
I'm super excited. Obviously, both of you have one Kickstarter, two books happening. And so I think the best place to start, because me and Roland spoke before about Silverline Comics, and this is what this all falls under. What is Silverline Comics before we dive into the Kickstarter and the two books, which is Cat and Mouse and Trumps?
Silverline Comics is see if I get this right, Tommy, is a genre-spanning graphic novel and comic book publishing company.
That sounds
Uh,
good.
yeah, we're just an independent comic maker. Um, along the lines of independent comics that have been around since I've been reading in the early early '80s. Uh, yeah,
And so we've spoken about this in a lot more detail, and I don't want to rehash all that since the last interview. And we are going to be talking about Cat and Mouse and Trumps in a little bit. But what type of books does Silverline publish? Because I know there's a lot of them. You work with a lot of artists and other writers,
yeah.
and there's a variety of things that people can pick up, and there's something for everybody within Silverline.
Well, and that's the key there is that we don't. Um, you can't look at us and say, oh, well, they're just a superhero publisher or they're just a science fiction publisher or whatever. Because we've got a little bit of everything, for all different demographics. The key that I would say is that we're pretty strictly a PG-13. Um, I like the model. I've always liked the model that like the Marvel movies have had in cinema. Right, PG-13 is something that can be enjoyed by everybody, adults. You go to the theaters and you see a lot of younger kids. You see a lot of teens. You see a lot of adults. It can be enjoyed by just about everybody. And that's kind of what we believe. We believe that comics are for everybody, and we want to make them for everybody. And I want them to be accessible to everybody.
And
Fun
then,
comics is what we make.
What's that?
A fun
Fun
comics.
comics. That's it.
There
Fun
you go.
comics.
and I love it. I love it. So let's dive into the Kickstarter because that's why we're all here. And the first book I want to start with is Trumps. And no, it's
Okay.
not presidential. We're not, before we even go down that, it has nothing to do with that. It's very different. I just want to table that before we even start, before I get hit or anybody else gets hit in this
Yeah.
chat. Because
Yeah, yeah,
see it,
nothing to do about politics. Actually, Roland keeps a deck of cards right there by. There he goes, right there. Look at that.
and
Every time
so
we talk about it, he pulls the cards out. I usually have my deck of cards. I don't know what I did with them. I usually bring it up just to show it's based off of
Playing
the
cards.
card game,
And,
playing card game.
and that I think that's the best place to start because what is the story of Trumps? Obviously, you brought out the deck of cards; it has to do with that. So, what is the basic premise? Because this is a new Kickstarter and it's a
Yes.
new series in Silverline. So, what is the story behind this and what's going on in this comic for everybody who's hearing about it for the first time?
Trump. So briefly, kind of the origin of it is that my family and I we play a lot of cards. We get together on on holidays and stuff like that. Um, we have a tendency to just sit down at the table and just start playing cards. And we play. We're not serious about it, and there's nothing. It's not. We don't have hundreds of dollars. Well, actually, we don't even use any
You're
money.
playing for money, right?
Yeah, we just sit
Okay.
down and that's when we have. That's when we catching up. We're saying what's going on in your life, what's going on in your life, what's happening in your kids' life, and all the while we're just playing cards. And we play games that I have discovered that a lot of people have never heard of, and I don't know if it's because I come from a family of farmers and they just made stuff up. I don't really know. I do know that you can buy a pinochle deck, and my family plays a lot of pinochle. And one time we were sitting around playing, and of course in pinochle you have things like double marriages and the pinochle, which is a queen of spades and a jack of diamonds, that's worth a lot of points. And so I got to thinking one time, I said, what if these really were like kingdoms? And what if the kingdoms were at war? What if you had like a kingdom of clubs and they were at war with the diamonds because the diamonds were trumps and clubs wanted to be trumps, and so they attacked them so they could become trumps. And that was really kind of the birth of the idea. And that is what the story is. It's a science fiction world. It's called, the world they live on, it's called The Deck. And there are 4 kingdoms of power on the deck. And regularly they have to fight for power. And the kingdom that achieves power are referred to as trumps.
Yeah, and let's dive into this because I love the concept. I think it's brilliant to take the deck of cards and then really bring life to this, because typically when people think of a deck of cards, they think of magic or they think of a card trick.
Right.
And now we're taking it and now we're actually adding life into this. And so there's a lot more going on, and it is political to the point where there's a lot of politics going on within this world for them fighting and having that discussion where clearly I think it's the diamonds and clubs are going at it.
Yes.
And so what is the impetus for their beef between each other? For starters.
It's power. It's all about power. I mean, that's really, I as a student of history, when you look at things, people will talk about, oh, well, this is the reason for this, and this is the reason for that, and this is the reason for that. Really, when you kind of boil things down to the core, it's about power. Who has power and who has the ability to use that power and force their way on others. And that's really what it's all about in trumps. So it is all about the clubs attacking diamonds, but there are other things going on as well. There's the Heart Kingdom, who has a king who has decided to sit the war out, but his Jack, who's like, no, we have to be powerful. We have to be our own kingdom. So his Jack leads an army, a young army, out to face the clubs. And, it's basically a bunch of kids going out to face a huge army. And, and he has, the King of Hearts has no idea what's going on because he's simply not invested. He's not interested. He's let, because of the war between the clubs and diamonds, of course, the balance has been broken. So the spades have invaded the Heart Kingdom because the king is weak. And the spades have kind of taken over hearts. But the spades are more like the mafia. They've just kind of come in and taken over all the local establishments. There's a scene in which we see the spades that they've taken over a local bar, and they're being served by all the hearts. And the king just has no clue that all this is happening. Of course, this ticks off the queen, right? Who's like, get off your butt and go do something. Your Jack's out there doing something. You should go do something. So when we say politics, I tend to want to say, think of politics in the way Game of Thrones was politics.
Yeah. Oh, and the Jokers too are it's a very visual book. It's a beautiful book. Wait till you guys see it.
And to even talk more about the King of Hearts, his queen isn't exactly in the best health, also, to some degree, from what I know and understand of the book. And
that's the Diamond Queen.
That's the Diamond
Queen, yeah.
So she's not in the best of health, and so that's
correct.
Also playing into some stuff, and things are going on, and so there's a lot of moving parts here. And obviously this is going to be expanded upon, and everything is sort of planted as a little bit of a seed to some degree. So what is
So
that like to plant all those seeds, and then we got the jokers, I guess
yeah,
fucking around a little bit, and then adding a little
Oh yeah.
fan in the
yeah,
flames is a good way to put it.
yep. So if anyone, if anyone knows much about history of Europe, at one point in time, all the heads of state throughout Europe, they were kin to each other. They were cousins and siblings and things like that. This is really kind of how I envision the leadership and the rulership of Trumps. So that the Queen of Hearts and the Queen of Diamonds are actually sisters, and so they're how can I say things without giving stuff away? Uh, you've already suggested that the Queen of Diamonds. Okay, so the Queen of Diamonds is not in the best of health. Okay, the Queen of Hearts is married to a wimp for a King of Hearts. She is envious of her sister, the Queen of Diamonds, who is married to a powerful king. I'll just leave that there. The only so there are superpowers in the book, but the only characters have to have superpowers are the aces. So the kings, queens, jacks, all the face cards, if you will. None of they're just I mean it's science fiction, so they carry around blasters and cool looking animals and things like that. But the aces are the ones that have superpowers.
Yeah, and it's gonna get wild, from my
Yes.
understanding, and a bunch of stuff's about to happen. And to throw it to Tommy, because I don't know if people can see it, but Tommy's background is from Trump's, and there's certain things going on. Correct?
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you want to
It's
talk about it.
it's a beautiful book. We've the first issue, or it's a two-part or two books altogether. But the first part it's a 48-page book, and it is chock full of beautiful art. I'm providing the inks. The colors are beautiful. It's a very pretty book. It's a handsome book, but it's it looks good. The whole
Yeah.
thing looks really good. I'm proud of it. We've done a great job.
Yeah.
And
And
to
I don't
even,
know how well you can see this,
Oh,
but
that's exclusive. Well,
yeah.
wait a minute. I got one too. Look at this. Whoa.
Yours
I mean,
doesn't
you
show
can't see
up.
it in mine. My green screen thing is messing up my picture.
So this is the Kickstarter exclusive edition. We always do Kickstarter exclusive editions for the covers, so that for the backers they get something that that you have to back the Kickstarter in order to get. And so for Trump's, what we have is we have this gold metallic cover here, and I'm trying to let you see the sheen of it. But yeah, the artwork is beautiful. Tommy inked that, colored by Sid Vin Blue. Yeah.
Yep, that's Anthony's art.
Yeah.
so
So
so so
I'm very excited about this cover. So
So let's talk a little bit about the inking and the relationship and all that stuff, because Tommy, you're the inker on this book. And inking is obviously going over pencils. It's also possibly adding shading in, and possibly also fixing a line if something got strayed in a position, if you see a flaw, if it's there and it needs to be addressed. And those inkers do that as well. And so, what is your relationship like with Roland and the artist, and just making sure that it's the best possible book out there, and really making it
Yeah,
beautiful and where it should be?
yeah. I've known Roland for a long time. Actually, Roland and Stephen Butler and Mitch Bird are the original Silverline group that I basically they helped me break into comics, being inking and stuff. And so the you're talking about fixing some stuff. You're making me laugh. I just noticed that they're one of the characters. Some of the page that I was working on, the penciler forgot to draw the. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. It's just something that I fixed. He's got a beard in one scene, a little scruffy beard, and then on a couple other panels, it disappears, and then it starts again on another. I'm like, is that a different guy? And I'm trying to go. Okay. no, he just forgot to draw the beard on the. So I'm having to add the extra, put the beard in and stuff. It's a little goatee kind of thing. The artist guy, Roland. The artist character. Yeah. He's missing a beard in one little spot. So I fixed that.
Wait, the artist, that's the king, right? Yeah.
Yes.
That's the king. That's the King of Hearts.
Yeah, he was missing a beard in one little scene, and I had to. He's fixed up now. He's got his little goatee thing going.
So
That it was missing. I inked the whole thing, and I'm like, that's the same guy. He doesn't have his beard. I gotta put his beard.
so to even talk about that, because Robert Kirkman has spoken about this, about Walking Dead and missing things. Tony Moore spoke about it. Charlie Ackard spoken about this. I had Ralph Tedesco on last night, and people look back and they see little flaws. So what is that like to catch certain flaws and really, because you're not the editor on the book, but even still just another pair of eyes seeing it and then just fixing it. And it's not going to make or break the book, but it's kind of nice to catch those flaws in many ways.
You try to fix them when you see the stuff, but at some point you just you can move on to the next page, and I mean, how many comics have you seen where the pouches on the suits appear and disappear on the next panel, and then the one guy's got stripes on his shirt, and then the next panel the stripes are on the other side, and it's being drawn, and we sometimes we have to flip the panels to make them work, and while we're doing them and stuff, so you gotta the little errors get in there, but it's kind of fun. It's like those books that you saw when you were a little kid. It's like when you had the 3 or 4 pictures, and it's like find the missing thing.
One of these things is not like the other.
Right. Yeah, you gotta find it. And when I'm doing my own books, I'm a terrible speller, and then I'll have the book printed, and people are asking if are you going to fix the spelling in this thing? I'm like, no, I'm on to the next book. I'm moving on. Got to move on to the next page. Got to get it done. Got a timeline, right? We got to get it all done.
Yeah. Well, it is funny though, because occasionally I'll get a message from Tommy and he'll say, "Hey, this panel here, it's got this thing in it, but in this page over here, it had this thing in it. Should I do this?" And I'm like, yeah, dude, I didn't even notice that. So because he's invested in the art and the pages for hours, and I look at them and go, ooh, pretty, but but he's working on them panel and line at a time, and so he notices them, so he sends me a message, and I'm like, I didn't even notice that. Yeah, please.
You would have noticed your King of Hearts with the missing goatee if I wouldn't have drawn it in. You would have.
Yeah. But I might have noticed it too late,
Yeah, we would have printed it and shipped it, and we're like, somebody, isn't that the same guy? You're like, oh, I could drew his hand like this.
Yeah.
And so now there's a lot going on in this book. There's a lot to come in this book, in this series, and everything that's about to ensue out of this invasion. And I don't want to ruin too much because I know that Roland is going to spill it all out. He wants to tell. I know you want to tell it. And so,
I like my tongue.
So we're getting an issue 2, from my understanding. And there's a sequel, and there might be more. I'm not exactly sure how far this story goes, but what can people expect without giving too much away with this? And so give them enough so they back the project.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to. So as Tommy said earlier, this is 48 pages. It's a big book. We're calling it, for the Kickstarter, we're calling it Book 1. So there's going to be a Book 1 and a Book 2. And if you break those down, going into comic shops, that'll be 4 issues. So it's really kind of a 4-issue miniseries. But when we're all said and done, I can't do the math. 48 and 48 is what? That's 96 pages. So the entire story is going to be 96 pages. And as far, we're already working on. I've got the stories. Let's see, I had them right here. I've got the stories already ready for the next issues. You can see here.
You're gonna tell us all so we can read it. Oh, we can read it. Don't read that. Don't read it.
Trump's 3 and Trump's 4. So, and which is just this is book 2 here.
Book 2.
So Thomas Hedgeland, who is the penciler, he's working on kind of a special project.
Special project for the second book.
For the second book before we actually get started on the interior pages. So he's got this thing he's going to do. We're going to kind of keep that under wraps for just a little bit. But he's doing this. He's working on this special project, and it won't take him too long. But it's gonna occupy some time first, and this will give him a break from doing the panel, which that's a lot of work for these guys. And then he's going to dive into doing book 2, which is will be another 48 pages. So.
Yeah, and to talk about that, because I think this is fascinating that you're doing it as what is typically known as a double book. I think it's called.
Yeah,
and then it's going to be broken down into 2 smaller books for the comic shop stuff, and
yes.
It's written in that style as well, versus being written as one major book and then being edited down, which I think is fascinating. So what prompted you to go take that writing approach? Because that's sort of a different writing approach, because I speak to a lot of people who just like to do one-shots and would rather write something in 96 pages and not deal with the breaks of it, or would rather just do 2 double books. But I like this idea, and I think it's just fascinating.
Well, part of it is just, I guess, kind of my own personal history as a writer in comics. I've written a lot of miniseries. In fact, that's probably 90% of what I've done. Maybe 95% of what I've done is just miniseries. And so I've always written with the idea that I've got 3, maybe 4 issues, and all of them except for the last one will have a cliffhanger, right? Because you want to end on a cliffhanger to have the reader anticipate and yearn for the next issue. And so when I'm writing, I'm thinking of that. I'm thinking of, okay, how can I do this in 3 issues or 4 issues? How can I, at what point in my story can I give a cliffhanger for the end of the first issue, for the end of the second issue? But you still got to bring it to a conclusion. The reason we decided to go with, there's a couple of reasons we decided to go with the double book for Kickstarter, and that was because the first one was practically done already. So we're like, hey, let's get Thomas Hedgeland to go ahead and wrap up the second half of book 1, which is kind of issue 2, right? And we can kickstart that and have a bigger book to offer to backers instead of a smaller book. I love smaller books, so I'm not saying that that's a problem. I mean, the Cat and Mouse one is a smaller book; it's an issue. But we just thought, hey, we've got these, and we're ready, and we like the project, and we think it's going to be a good thing. Plus, this is something a little extra that Kickstarter backers will get. And you're not going to be able to get it outside of Kickstarter, right? Because it won't be available this way outside of Kickstarter. So it was just one of those things that we thought, let's try this. Let's see what happens. Let's see how our backers respond. Do they like this? Is it not something they want us to do again, or do they love it? So
do they like something that's not a trade paperback or just a big thick book? So it's kind of a little experiment that Silverline's doing with this one.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and let's talk about that, because Kickstarter is getting very interesting as of lately. And part of the reason why Kickstarter is getting fascinating is we have all these big names coming in. Scott Snyder's coming into it. I just backed the Curse Word project that was done by Charles Soule and Ryan Brown, and that's going to be a cool one to have. And both those guys are pretty big. Jeff Lemire's on it. Keanu Reeves with Boom Studios. I mean, I think they've breached over 800,000 at this point, or they're pretty close to it. I don't have the exact number. And so obviously people have to adapt to them coming in, and there's both good and bad with that. And so this is sort of cool because this is a different adaptation that's out there. And do you think that that's going to be more the norm of what people are going to have to do, and you're going to have to provide something different to stay competitive? Because the competition did increase, But
Yes.
so did
Yeah.
the viewership and more registered accounts and a variety of other things have increased as well. And that's why I say there's good and bad with it. So I'm just curious your feelings on all the big people not coming into it and what that means for the comic world and what that means for the Kickstarter world and just experimentation. So I think that's coming out along with COVID stuff, which we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Yeah. Well, well, I mean, obviously, I think that if you get more names into Kickstarter, then more people are aware of Kickstarter. And it's really clear, right? If you follow the industry, it's really clear that we are in a period of flux because of, Diamond stopped shipping there for, what, 2 months or something like that, Tommy?
Yeah, 2 or 3 months.
Something. Yeah, 2 or 3. They just stopped shipping books.
And then when they did, DC pulled out of it and
Yep.
went and did their own thing. And
So we are in a state of flux, and I think part of what happened is Kickstarter never shut down, and fans never stopped wanting books to read, even though the stores were shut and Diamond stopped shipping. Fans were still like, hey, I want comics.
something.
I want something to read.
This is
so I think
Tommy's field, by the way, everybody. This is legitimately Tommy's field. And Tommy is sort of an expert in this area. For those who don't know, Tommy is a co-owner of Kablam Printing.
Kablam Digital Printing, which we also have our sister company is Indie Planet, which is a online store, and all through the COVID shutdown and stuff. Of course, that first couple of months in March or whatever, we couldn't go to the office and everything because Florida was on shutdown for the most part. We could still we snuck in every now and again, printed up some stuff, and then ran home.
Nobody in Florida was with it, so you're okay.
No, nobody. Yeah, but we. Yeah. So all the print-on-demand stuff is slowed down, but it's picked back up. Everything's picked. But you were going to talk about COVID stuff later.
Yeah. And just to talk about this, and I don't know if you've noticed who's been on my show, but a bunch of people use you and your company who I've interviewed.
Well, we appreciate it so much.
So,
yeah.
so that's how I know who your name and what you do and your company. But yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about that because that's a fascinating component. But even just to get back to the Kickstarter question is that, I mean, obviously there is a change, and I think you said it well. There's a period of flux, and there's also a period of nobody knows what the next 6 months looks like in the world in general, let alone the comic world, let alone the economic world. And I don't want to mean to get too political here, but obviously a lot of change is happening and a lot of dust has to settle before I think people know where anything's going to happen. Because it could very well be that DC comes back into Diamond at some point in the next year or two, or they can never come back, and we don't know.
No.
Right.
And that's a big thing for a lot of companies, and even not on the indie side, but just in the professional side for Dark Horse, Dynamite, Zenescope, and those companies. That's a big deal for them on what happens. And even Marvel now as well, it also is being affected by it, both positively and negatively. But we can talk about that in a minute. I do want to talk briefly about Cat and Mouse. Issue 3 is coming. It's part of this Kickstarter as well. And we've been through Cat and Mouse extensively. Right. Extensively. The last interview, I think we spent like 25 minutes on it.
Yeah.
Basically, the basic story is Brett Huffman basically gets bothered by his ex-fiance / ex-wife to go find her kid sister in New Orleans, and pretty much winds up in a human sex traffic big ring, and sort of has to break it down or get the kid out of it, to put it nicely. I think yeah. is sort of a good way how to put it. So, what is issue 3 about to deal with, and all that stuff?
Yeah. So issue 3. So what we've seen in issues 1 and 2 is we've seen obviously the discovery, right? The discovery of the kid's sister, whose name is Bobby. We've seen the discovery of her in the human trafficking ring. Brett discovering this. We've seen in issue 2, Brett finally connecting with her and finding out, trying to get her to go away and finding out why she ran away from home. Because, as if anyone knows, a lot of kids who get caught up in the human trafficking are runaways. They run away from actually the foster system. I don't know if anyone's seen, but there's been a couple of victories here in the last month where we've rescued some. I say we as if like I was a part of it, but they have rescued close to 100 kids who had been human trafficked, and the overwhelming majority of them come out of the foster care system. And so Bobby is part of the foster care system, and when Brett's trying to get her to go home, she's like, you know what, I'm not going to go home. I'm going to stay here. And so he has to kind of convince her that she's gone from one bad thing into another bad thing. And then at issue 3 is when some of those realizations for Bobby sink in, and she realizes that Brett might just be right, but how does she get out? Because the Widowmaker, who is the head of it is comic book, so we got to bring in some villains. So Widowmaker, who is the head of the human trafficking ring, is powerful, and so she can't just say, "All right, I'm done. I'm going out. I'm out of here." Right? She can't just do that because it doesn't work that way. So issue 3 brings about some of those realizations for Bobby, and having her trying to figure out how she's going to, if she can get out, and how she's going to do it. Keeping in mind, she's only 17, right? She's young.
Yeah, I'm going to just leave it at that because we've hashed out cat and mouse extensively. Again, extensively. Like, legitly, I think, 15 weeks ago we hashed it out? So, pretty big.
Yeah.
And obviously stuff happens and it's pretty much out there for anybody who wants to see it. So let's talk about what's going on with the Inside Baseball with these Kickstarters, or the Kickstarter 2 books. And what's cool about this one is that, and I know that Silverline wanted to do double feature books, but this is not a double feature for the most part. So a double feature book.
Well, it's not a flip book, if that's what you mean. Yeah. It's because the front book is so big.
So a flip book is that on one side facing one way, you read it, and then you have to flip it over, and then you do it the other side. That's what a flip book is. For those who don't know, it's kind of it's an old thing that a lot of publishers don't do anymore. And so this is not that.
The reason, mostly the reason why, is because it's a binding issue. At this point, if it turns into a flip book, it's so thick it has to be bind like a trade paperback, and then all of a sudden, we didn't want to have to. Roland's the one, he's the publisher, but I'm the printer, so I've been telling. The cost in producing a trade paperback, of course, is a lot more than just stapling a book together and trimming it. So it's the binding, it's all that kind of stuff. So all of a sudden, the cost would have just jumped up, $3-4 more above just 2 books being printed, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's not a flip book this time.
Yeah.
So to even talk about this, so you get either of these books, you get both of these books, you can get just them digitally, you can get.
And Roland's got so many words in there. It's great.
So I'm gonna go through as many of them as I can. So you can get the digital copies of Cat and Mouse 1, 2, and 3. You can just get the digital copies of 3 and Trumps 1. You get the digital copies of 1, 2, and 3 of Cat and Mouse and Trumps 1. You can get the exclusive Kickstarter variants of each of these Trumps as well as Cat and Mouse. There's a cover A set. There's a cover B set of both of these books. There's a cover C set. There's a retro set, which is awesome, and I definitely like the retro set. It's cool, and I love things going back old school. And then there's a huge amount of original art that can be picked up.
So much.
Yep.
So much.
And so
some of it's gone, but there's still a bunch there. There's plenty of, even Stephen Butler's Trump's cover that I inked just the other day. It's available too.
Yeah, it's still there. I gotta let the Butler Brigade know about that.
That's right. They'll pick it up in a second. As soon as they know about it, they grab everything Stephen draws. So it doesn't matter what it is.
And there's so much art in here, Andrew. And what I've said before about this. I said, you know what? If you claim to be a fan of original art, if you're like, I love original art, and you go look at the Trumps and Cat and Mouse Kickstarter, and you can't find original art, then you're lying. You're not a fan of original art because there's so much art there, and it's good stuff.
And if it's not there, we've got some of the artists, Alex and Thomas, are doing commission stuff too. So you can get something, I mean, we'd like for you to get something Silverline drawn, but if you want them to draw, your Magneto thing or whatever, they'll do it. They'll do whatever you want them to draw. Yeah. So it's fabulous.
Yeah, and so that's something that I like about this Kickstarter is that there's a lot of choice. And it's very much a choice on what you want. Reward wise, it's also very low cost as far as digitally to get involved. And that's something that I like too, because a lot of people might have never heard of any of this. And I was like saying, look, I think this is interesting and I'm hearing about it for the first time, but I don't want to go and put a huge investment in. And I think that's a mistake in my opinion. I'm curious what you think, that a lot of artists prior toward basically make it a priority to sell on Kickstarter than their physical copies and actually put digital at the bottom of the totem pole. I think that's the mistake with a lot of people, because digital can get somebody to go up the chain a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And it's less risk. And I feel more comfortable when I don't know any project that I'm going to buy it digitally first versus physical, especially if there's like a $5 or $6 price difference. It's a big deal.
Well, I think there's kind of two reasons that we really offer the digital stuff. One is exactly what you just said there, is that I know that there's probably people out there going, who's Roland Mann? I know about Malibu, but I don't remember what he did, or maybe, who's Tommy? And they're like, I've never heard of Trumps, and I've never heard of this stuff. And they're not really ready to drop down, $10 or $25 for the Kickstarter. They're like, yeah, that looks good, but I don't think I'm willing to do that. So they can, get the digital versions and say, all right, I'm going to spend a little bit of money for the digital versions, and they can get them and check them out. Now, my belief is, right, they're going to get those and they're going to say, whoa, cool, dang it, I should have got the print versions because these look really good and I want to own the copies. And then they can come back and they can, hopefully if that happens, and they're going to come back for our next Kickstarter when we, kickstart Cat and Mouse #4, and when we kickstart Trump's book 2. They'll come back and they'll pick, because we'll always offer the opportunity to, hey, if you missed the first ones, you can get them.
Catch back up. Exactly.
And so that's the one of the reasons, and that's one of the things that I hope is the case. The other reason is because we do have some folks from internationally that are like, you know what, I would love to have a copy of your book, but it costs $30 to ship.
Well, it's even crazier than that. There's some places we can't ship to still.
Right.
With all this COVID stuff going on, there's in some Argentina, some places like that we can't physically. You can't even ship anything there, or they can't ship anything out either. So it's a lot of places like that are still on mail lockdown. So it's kind of nuts. So they can get the digital copies.
Yep, they can get the digital copies. That way they can still help us. They can still participate in the campaign, and it is a huge help to us. Anything is a help, and they still get the books and to read
and enjoy.
And enjoy, which is, as Tommy said at the very beginning, it's about fun, having fun with the comics, and we think they are.
Yeah, and to even talk a little bit more about all this, how far are you done with both of these books? Because Kickstarter, for those who know, there's two schools of thought. Some people fund just a concept and then build it out, and it takes 2 years to get it. Some people are 80% done with the book, and some people are completely done with the book, and now it's just a matter of printing it and getting it shipped out to the people. So how far are you done with both of these books? Because two books are more complicated than one.
We are 99.99999% done.
I think I've got one well, Cat and Mouse is completely
Cat
done.
Mouse is completely finished. It's
You
ready
know,
to print.
penciled, inked, colored. Has it been? You've lettered it.
It's
Been, right?
completely ready.
It's ready. Like I could print it tomorrow. Kablam could print it tomorrow if we
You
needed
absolutely could.
to. Trump's is all. It's all colored except for the last page I'm working on because we're doing all this press stuff. I'm kind of. I kind of some of the stuff I'll share the screen that I'm inking so you can see what's going on. So we're waiting for the last second, but the colorist is ready. I was just chatting with her a little while ago. She's going, "Are you done with that page yet?" Like, oh, I still got another couple of things. So I'm kind of slow boating, but you know, we still got 10, 12
days. Yeah,
on the
10 days.
Kickstarter. So, you know, I've got, you know, back in the day when I was working for Marvel and Malibu and doing all the Ultraverse stuff, I was making 3 or 4 pages a day. So
Yeah.
I think I can do 2 panels in about 15 minutes if I need to. So, so we're just kind of, you know, yeah. I'm saving the last little bit because, you know, you guys sometimes you want me to be working on the page that we're talking about. So, you know, I saved 1 page.
So, which is why I say we're 99.99999% done. Yeah, we've only got there's some pages to be lettered, which is not really that the time intensive on Trump's, and then of course there's the last page to be inked and colored. So we are, I mean, we're going to be ready to go when the campaign ends.
Yeah, and that's what Silverline likes to do. They don't want to be going on weeks after. I mean, how many books have I've still got some stuff that I've bought through Kickstarter.
No names.
Years ago, and still have not got.
Right.
So, you know, and they keep claiming, "Well, I'm working on it." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't think you are."
Yeah.
So.
And you know, Andrew, we don't want to be those guys. We don't want people to ever say, "Yeah, well, I backed that Silverline book and I'm still waiting on it. I don't know where it is." We don't want that to ever be us, right? So we want to make sure that if you can back with confidence because you know that our books are done or will be done by the end of the campaign, and as soon as we get the funds, I always when the campaign ends, I send out the survey so I can get the names. The only thing I really have left to do at that point in time is put the names on the thank you page, right?
Yep.
And,
so you need that. Yeah.
I'll need that, so I have to wait on that before I can send it to the printer. And you know, we have thank you pages in which we thank all of our supporters and we list them by name, right? So I have to do that. Otherwise, it's all ready to send to the printer. It's all ready to send to Tommy. Sometimes I'm saying, sometimes I'm like, "Tommy, can I go ahead and send you these?" He's like, "Yeah, not yet, man, not yet. Don't send them yet." I'm like, I want to send them to you because they're ready. I can send them to you now. But we have to wait on the funds from Kickstarter, which takes about 2 weeks to get.
Awesome. And then I just want to give you an opportunity now. Where can people find this Kickstarter, and where can people pledge, and what should they type into Kickstarter to find it so they can go pledge and they have quick access and easy access to it before we change gears?
So yeah, I think you just you can you can type in Trump's to find it. The name of the Kickstarter is Trump's Book 1 and Cat and Mouse 1, 2, 3. Obviously, I'll send you a link if you are or actually, you know what, I can post it on your certainly on the Facebook page. But you can type in Trump's and Cat and Mouse, probably either one, and it'll come up.
You can even type in Roland Mann and then in all of Roland's stuff, and then you'll see it pop up right there too.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, that's how I keep looking for it when I'm like, what's the numbers now? And I don't have the link. I just go to Kickstarter and type Roland Mann, and all of a sudden it pops up. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. I didn't realize that.
Now I want to table all this, and I want to talk about sort of some inside baseball. And this might be a little more Tommy's field, but Roland, you also have a lot of knowledge in this.
Sure.
And COVID has obviously messed up a bunch of stuff in the comic world. We were speaking about it a little bit before, where obviously Diamond stopped sending out for 2 or 3 months. They completely derailed DC's Punchline event and all that stuff. And that stuff's now starting to come out with certain things. Spider-Man 850, I think, was also derailed, which is coming out in a week from today. in many ways as well. And so, what has that been like on the indie book scene? And because we've seen a lot of more people on Kickstarter now and things like that. And so, what has that been like as an indie publisher and even printing wise? Because,
Well,
yeah.
as far as Kablam goes and printing, we while we do send a lot of to the books to indie creators and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of the books are for people taking them to conventions and stuff, and so since conventions have just stopped, except
Yes.
for a handful, our business has slowed way down, but it's picked back up. And Kablam is actually moving along pretty good. The past month has been really, really picked back up. Now we're nowhere near where we should be at this point, from last year. So, but yeah, everything is just slowed completely down. I'm not sure if that's the direction that you were asking, um, but getting, everybody works from home. So as far as doing their comics and stuff, so we're still all doing that. But as far as Kablam goes, we're getting busy again. So that's pretty good. So I'm kind of thinking everything has just shifted a little bit now that things are opening up a little more. Florida's been back in the swing of things. Of course, the positive numbers of COVID had jumped way back up, but they're getting down to in the low thousand, 2,000 range. Disney's opened up. They've been going since 2 months now, 2.5 months. So they're slowly opening everything. So everything's getting a little busy. Just like you running around outside with everybody with their mask on and stuff like they're bank robbers and stuff. So it's just kind of a weird look when you run into the last time I had to wear a mask like this is when I was robbing a place. But now I can just do it and I feel normal. So it's but I mean I'm not quite sure if that's what your question
And then,
was.
and then to further build off of that, the sister company, and I actually just bought some from Indie Planet. I bought
Yeah.
Sister Mercy, and I thought Sister Mercy was brilliant by Cordy Hardyman and what he's doing with
Hmm.
that book. And what has that been like in the last 6 months?
Indie Planet's been just kicking all the way through. Towards the beginning of when everything got shut down. Kablam was just, if we got an order or two a day, we were like, oh, that's nice. But the Indie Planet was just, just trucking along. So Indie Planet has been going, and so go to indieplanet.com. You'll see that there's thousands upon thousands of books up there. Lots of good stuff. All the Silverline stuff is up there. All my personal Inferno Studios books are up there. My business partner's books are Barry Gregory, all his Gallant are on there, which I also inked on. And yeah, no, Indie Planet is doing really good. It didn't really slow down. I mean, everything slowed down right that first month. But once people realized they could stick their heads outside a little bit, and they realized that Amazon was still delivering, oh, the post office is still running, then all of a sudden we were having to sneak over to the office to start printing stuff and then getting out of there quick just to make sure that we didn't get in trouble. But yeah, Indie Planet hadn't slowed down.
I will tell you though, from the small publisher point of view, not having um, not having conventions has really hurt.
Yes.
Because that's one of the ways that because we don't have multi-million-dollar budgets, so we need to be getting out there, doing conventions, talking to people face to face. That's really how we grow our audience, because we go out there and a lot of times people are like, oh, who are you? I've never heard of you. I mean, some people come by, oh, Roland, here's this book from 1990. Will you sign this? And I'm happy to do that. But for the most part, a lot of them come by and they're like, hey, I don't know you. What are your books? Oh, let me look at your book. And so you'll talk to them, you'll give them your spiel, and a lot of times you can make new fans that way. And so that's been sorely missing this year.
Yeah, the last show I did was in February.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think the last one I did was in January.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this because I had a discussion and I'm bringing it up because it's relevant with Ralph Tedesco and Zenoscope does a lot of virtual cons, and we were speaking about an last con they attended and they went to a C2E2, and that was kind of the last major con in the U.S. And so I think that was mid March, and then Emerald City got canceled.
Yeah.
And so, and Zenoscope started very much like an indie publisher. Now they're somewhat above that. So I want to make that clear that they're in a very different position. But
Right.
I think it's relevant to speak about it, where obviously a lot of publishers do live on the indies and live sort of similar to indie comics, and indie comics live at cons, where
Yeah.
you have a table and somebody comes and sees what you're doing and sees your banner and then is, so that looks cool, what is this? And then they might
Yeah.
just speak to you, or they might take a business card of yours, or they might pick up your first issue, and then I'm sure this happens where if you have 2 issues out, they pick up the first one, they come back the next day and say, hey, what happens next? And so a lot of that is convincing people and speaking to people and also getting a barometer of what's interesting and who's interested. And so it's
Right.
not even so much about the money anymore, but it's also about seeing your fans and understanding
Yeah.
who your fans are. And if you're testing something where you might have funded a book on Kickstarter and then it might do better at a con, or there might be more interest. And so what is all that like, and where do you think cons are going with that? Because that's the big question that everybody has right now, is that what happens next? Because, and I'll add more to it, WonderCon's been canceled, San Diego's been canceled for the first time in 50 years, New York Comic Con's been canceled, Awesome Con in DC, which is a big DC con, has been
But I
canceled.
think Baltimore is actually still. Did they get canceled, or is it still advertised as going to happen?
They're still advertising.
It's a safe bet that they're going to be canceled. There's no way. Anime NYC,
I don't know. I don't know how they could do it. At
it's a
this
safe
point.
bet.
But
Anime NYC, which is in New York in November, just canceled. And I know Baltimore. Is Baltimore before or after New York Comic Con?
It's in October.
So
I don't know the exact date, but
it's around the same time, and I just don't anticipate it. So, but I don't know. I would imagine that I think they canceled. I think they canceled because I think they announced that they canceled, and I remember shooting them a message saying, "Hey, I'd like to do a virtual panel for you guys. Are you interested?" And they never got back to me. But that's neither here nor there.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm slated to do a show January the 17th, so I know I need things to get back to normal by then.
So given that everything is going on and the safety and all that stuff, and obviously we don't know the future, it'd be so helpful if we did. We would all be very wealthy if we did. We'd all bet accordingly. But nonetheless, where do you think cons need to go to get back on track, if they could even control it, or what do you think they need to put in place, whether it's attendance limits or distancing or bigger venues or mask requirements or other things, or maybe plexiglass between contact, or maybe people can't be contacting one another so frequently. I mean, I'm curious.
there's several things that I don't know how are going to open until we get a vaccination or the numbers just drop down to almost nothing. Um, I mentioned that Disney was open. I don't know if you've watched any of the. Now, we haven't been out there, even though we live here in town in
My
Orlando.
son has been.
Oh, has it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But we've watched a lot of our YouTube people that we watch. That do the
Our
Disney
celebrities,
stuff all the time.
our celebrities
Do I?
are out there promoting.
That's right. But they no, they're in. My wife does. I'm gonna say my wife does work for Disney in global HR, and they've been doing an excellent job at keeping everything clean. They've limited the amount of people that can go in. So what can they do to make shows work this way? I don't know, because I mean there's certain things that just won't work, and like going to school. I don't know how you see all the kids in school right now are getting sick.
Yeah.
You know, they'll shut down a school for 2 weeks just to open it up for a day or two, and then and then all of a sudden they get shut down again because some people are passing the crud around there. So I don't know. I don't know what I mean, if you limit the show to just half, is that enough people to put on a show? I don't
That's the
know.
problem. Is that you limit your attendance, then you cut your. If you just say limit it in half, you cut your I don't know what it's called, but your gate revenue.
Not even the gate. Not even the gate. You cut also the guarantee revenue. You cut the vendor revenue. Because if
You do.
because this is the problem, and I've spoken about this with somebody, and I had Brimstone on, and he makes a lot of his money being a guest at cons, and so he's issued a guarantee, and so obviously, if he can't meet his guarantee or a con can't justify his guarantee, through sales tickets, it becomes a big problem. And so now, you have a celebrity coming to a con, and they are a component of it, and then all of a sudden they have a $35,000 guarantee, but
Guaranteed, yeah.
they're expecting 40,000 people and they're charging $70. They're going to meet their guarantee statistically if they're big enough. And now you limit that to 20,000 and they want the same guarantee, it becomes a big problem. And conversely, for the indie guys, which are sort of at the opposite end of it, it's you got to buy a table, and all of a sudden, if you know that half your guarantee, half the audience is gone, and you're already getting a very small percentage just from the business side of stuff, and now you're getting an even smaller percentage, it doesn't make any economic sense for you unless your table cost gets cut. And gets cut in ration to the attendance, which these cons can't afford to do. If they're having their thing, they actually have to raise their table price in many ways. And so now that's
because the venue still has to charge X amount per spot, and the venues would rather not open up rather than cut prices on how much they're going to charge to get to sell to the con so they can then sell the table space. So that's why they're all just and wearing masks and stuff. I mean, we're down here in Florida, and it is hot. I don't know. I've been running around with
also
90 degrees trying to wear a mask. It's not fun.
And at a con, people want to cosplay, and now you're wearing a mask and you're taking that element out of it. It changes the element and the vibe of the con, and it sounds selfish when I say it this way, but it does change the element tremendously of the con. Now everybody's got to wear a mask, and it ruins that cosplay, and that's sort of because that's a part of it. And people spend, you're spending $90 on a ticket, you want to take a picture with somebody who's cosplaying your favorite character. You don't want a face mask there, and that's going to be in
all the photo ops are gone. You gotta
And so
unless you say, well, we'll ignore the rules for that,
and so even going
challenges certainly.
Yeah, definitely. So even going beyond this, and I'm just curious because obviously I'm very much in the virtual space. I've been in the virtual space now, and what I'm doing for the past 6 months, and I've entered relatively new, and I'm running a lot of Facebook ads and other things like that, and I'm doing a lot of this, and I'm stepping up for me, and I am curious what the two of you think, being that you're in comic books and producing books and printing and running a small publisher. What do you think the virtual space with all this looks like? And what do you think comic creators and just anybody in the comic space now needs to do? Because it seems to me that the new space is virtual, and you now not only need to be a creator, but you need to be, a marketer. You need to understand social media. You need to understand TikTok, if that's still legal, Instagram, Twitter, and you need to be technology savvy and social media savvy in today's world. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but people.
Yeah, no, you definitely you got to be up on all that kind of stuff. But, I think it's the weird part of me thinks that I used to say this at the very beginning when all this started happening and stuff, that a lot of good things are going to happen because of all of this. Now, I know that don't nobody be mad at me, because I know a lot of people have got sick and a lot of people have passed, and it's terrible. But the things that are going to change to make things better are like a lot of these virtual cons and stuff like that. I think those are the really cool ideas if we can get them to work.
Yeah, I agree.
We still need the physical cons because those are just so much fun. I don't want to give that up.
Well, and,
But
and not only that is I think the problem with the virtual cons is that at a physical con, someone can come up to my table and say, "Oh, this looks really cool. Let me try this book out." And okay, would you sign it for me?
right,
And for not a whole lot of money, they can pick up a new book and have an autograph. If you try to replicate that online, well, okay, you don't get to meet them face to face. If I've got a book here, I can still sign it for you. But now you're talking about, 4, 5, 6, 7, $10 in postage, whatever kind of postage you have. Now it's not just buying a $5 or a $10 book or a $20 graphic novel. It's I got to pay the postage too.
Yeah, and also we look at this in Wizard World, and I don't know if any of you are loving Wizard World and what they do, but their virtual con system is failing, and it's going down, and it's pretty bad, and it's burning in flames, to put it nicely.
I didn't know.
I didn't, yeah,
And,
I didn't even know
and
they were doing
so
them. I don't think.
they were doing so they run a lot of Facebook ads, and it's just for everybody out there, and they do a lot of celebrities, and it's not working.
Yeah.
And you could greet and meet that celebrity for like $40 and have a 3 minute conversation with them. Maybe they'll sign something like an 8x10, and then they ship to you for free, or you have to pay an extra $20 and you get it signed by them, which isn't unreasonable. It's similar to a con
Right.
price, but it's not working.
Yeah, you still want to be face to face with the person. It's this is all great, and and this environment works because, well, obviously, podcast and streams and live streams and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. Obviously it works, it's great. It's TV and stuff, but you still, it's still kind of, I can see William Shatner on TV, but it was neat going to a show where I almost bumped into him. It's like, that's
Yeah.
William Shatner. I just bumped into William Shatner. That's so cool.
This is
So
not a
it's a
replacement.
little different.
This is not a replacement for a con, what I'm doing and what Zenoscope does with their virtual cons, and I think they do it the best. Right now is not a replacement. It's great
Right.
for me to pick up books.
Yes.
And it's not that much more expensive to pick up books. They charge $10 flat shipping for upwards of, I think, 50 pounds, which is amazing. And if you're buying 50 pounds of comics, we have to have a conversation. It's called intervention. It's a little per order. It's a little bit different, everybody. We need to have a speak if that's you. But I digress there. Where
Well, hey, we ship out a lot of big books for through Indie Planet. Maybe not 50 pounds worth of books, but yeah.
but I digress right there. But I think that this isn't a replacement for cons. I think there is something about seeing people and engaging with people, and I think this is a holdover what I'm doing right here and all these virtual stuff, because a con is fun. There's an atmosphere to a con, and you can't get the same atmosphere while I'm sitting in my kitchen speaking to both of you. As much as I'm enjoying it, and I think you're enjoying it too, you
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
get the same atmosphere and the same sense of fun, or it's very
Right.
hard to replicate. And so I'm just curious if you think that virtual stuff, and when you even think cons can even possibly come back, because it's not so much anymore of when they're even legally able to do it. It's what does the economy look like? It is a big factor. And then secondly, what do people feel comfortable with? I think is the other big factor right now.
I think of cons a lot like, and I said this at the very beginning. I think of cons a lot like I do of the theme parks. Um, as soon as Disney opened to the limited capacity that they did, it was the 20%, 30% or whatever, they were booked solid. I think that I think as soon as the shows start opening up and it's safe, it's got to be safe. I think people are just going to start going. I don't know if you hear everybody, the big fight about now. I'm going to take the vaccination when it comes out. Am I not? I don't know. Let's not talk about if you're going to do it or not. But once it's safe, we'll just say get past all that. Once it's safe, say that you're good to go. I think it's going to just kick back up and start going again. I mean, you see the economy is, doing like this, and it just depends on what's on the news at the time. 1 minute, the Dow is up 1,000 points, and then the next day it's down 1,000 points. It's just, so it's, I would hope that once it's safe and everything's all cool again, I'm kind of thinking that it's going to be like the theme parks, Disney, Universal, SeaWorld and stuff. That is, as Disney's opening up the throttle. I'm doing a throttle. This is not a throttle. Open the faucet once they turn and they start letting they're starting to let more people in. More people are going, and the hotels are starting to fill back up in the limited amount that they can do in a safe way. So I think that it's gonna. Once it's safe, I think it'll just. I don't know how long it'll take to get back up to 100% like it was back in January, or like I did a show in February that was just super packed right when we were hearing about the virus, coming in and all that kind of stuff, and everybody at the show was like, "What's going to happen? What's going to happen?" But that show was packed, with people having a great time and buying stuff, selling books left and right and stuff, and then all of a sudden 2 weeks later, boom, the door got shut. And but no, I think it may take a little while to ramp back up, but I think I'm hoping, crossing my fingers.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think the economy continues to, at least for the past couple of months, continues to add jobs, continues to add jobs. I mean, they're not, we're not back to the numbers that we were at prior to this, but we're certainly moving in that direction. And I think I think as far as people are concerned, I think like you look at Disney, I think people are ready. I think people are I think Tommy said earlier, they're tired of being cooped up. They're tired of being stuck in their houses or in their cubicles or in their whatever, and they're ready. They're ready to get out. And I think if you give them a convention, I think that they're going to go.
Well, I kind of look at it like we keep getting these spikes here and there. It's like, why are we at this point, 6 months later, are we still getting these spikes every now and again? It's because something opens up and I was going to say a dirty word, a shitload of people go out and by accidentally just get sick. And so people are ready to get out and start doing stuff. We just got to get it safe, and I think it's gonna. I hope. Just looking at what Disney is doing and the parks and stuff, people are going. They want to get out. They want to go. They want to be safe, but they want to go. So I think they'll go. So to answer your question, they're going.
It's just a matter of when and not if anymore.
Right. Yeah, I think so.
And so I think that
my show that I'm doing, the big show I was talking about that I went to in February, they're going at it as if hopefully February is going to come and things will be okay. So I mean, I guess all the shows have to do that until they cancel, right? I mean, there's no purpose of not doing that. So as your next show that's around the corner, they still need to keep selling it and keep pushing it. And then when it comes to the time that they have to cancel, then they may need to cancel. But they can't think of a show, like next San Diego, next July or whatever. They can't go ahead and cancel it now. That would be kind of foolhardy, I would think. Yeah. So yeah, I think yes for cons.
And I think we're going to leave it on that note, but I do want to give both of you an opportunity to promote yourself. Where can people, A, find the Kickstarter, B, find your books beyond the Kickstarter, follow you on social media? I know Facebook pages are big, Twitter's big, Instagram is really big right now. And those are kind of the big three. And other social media platforms, websites, obviously, are crucial as well. So I don't know who wants to start.
Let me start. That way, Roland can end up with the Kickstarter stuff.
Okay.
My name is Thomas Florimonte. It's spelled Florimonte. You can find me on just all the different stuff. Just look for Thomas Florimonte. I also do my own self-published books under the Inferno Studios. I do a lot of kid hero kind of cool kind of kid. It's all age art book stuff. I really like doing really animated kind of looking art when I do my own stuff, beyond doing the mainstream stuff. And I also I'm co-owner of the Kablam Digital Printing, and so you can just look for Florimonte, Florimonte. There's not many of us, so you can find us.
As well as Indie Planet 2. Indie Planet 2, you're the
Indie Planet. Yeah, there are thousands of. I forgot what we were talking about. There's. Shoot, I'm going to embarrass myself. How many books are up there? There's tons of series. So it's not like, I mean, there's a lot of one-off type stuff, but there's a bunches of series up there. Like all the Silverline stuff is up there too, besides my books. But there's bunches of really, really good
Sister Mercy.
So check it out.
Sister Mercy.
Or indieplanet.com.
I'll recommend one to everybody. Sister Mercy is a really good one by Corey Hardiman, and issue 1 and 2 are up there, and that will be kickstarted actually, I think, in November for the 3rd issue. And so I just interviewed Corey, and that was a great interview with Corey, and really interesting comic. And if you're like me, making fun of religion and talking about religion and having that in comic books, and you're into that genre, that's a really good comic for you.
Yeah, all of the Indie Planet stuff is printed by Kablam. Kablam is our major. That's like our little sister online store, if you would. So.
And Roland,
yeah, and you can find me on Facebook at Roland Mann. You can find me on Twitter at Man Roland. I'm on Instagram too. Sometimes I think it's the Roland Mann. I think, but I'm not really sure. Generally, you look for my caricature, and you can find me. But also, Silverline has a website, silverlinecomics.com. We post there mostly weekly, but we're pretty active on the Facebook page, Silverline Comics Facebook page. Do all kind of stuff there, always sharing. We share there daily. Silverline Comic has a Twitter account as well and an Instagram account, and we pretty much daily post on all of those places. And as I just discovered, you go to Kickstarter, you can type it in Trumps, and our Kickstarter will pop up. The name of the Kickstarter is Trump's Book 1 and Cat and Mouse 1 through 3.
Also, not to interrupt, but you can just click the link, guys, in the comments. It's been up for a while. That's probably the fastest way how to get there if you're watching. This also, but continue.
Yeah, or you can look up Cat and Mouse. If you go to Kickstarter and just type in Cat and Mouse, it will come up, as well as the other Cat and Mouse Kickstarters that are now closed. Or, as I just discovered, Tommy said you can type my name in, and some of the projects will come up. And just look for the one that's still going on, which is Trump's Book 1 and Cat and Mouse 1 through 3. And I just noticed we are at 99 backers, so hopefully somebody watching this
the 100
right will say, I'm going to take the plunge and I'm going to become number 100.
Well, there you go. It's an opportunity to push over 100, everybody. So let's just go check that out. Let's see if that could happen in the next few minutes for the people watching. And as always, I would like to thank both of you for being on, because I absolutely appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, and I've been ending every interview the same way, because it's how I roll. Seriously, go back to this Kickstarter. Go support indie comics. This is the time to support indie comics. This is the time to throw money at it. It doesn't matter how much or how little. If you just want to take the risk in the digital plunge, that's totally cool. But obviously, you have to support indie comics because they don't have a huge budget like other companies do. And if you can afford to back it right now,
Get that
obviously,
gold cover.
yeah, there's a gold metallic cover for you, everybody, and that's one of the exclusives. That's the Kickstarter exclusive for Trumps. And as I was
Yes.
saying, though, if you can't back it economically right now because you're worrying about taking care of your family or taking care of yourself or just making sure that you're going to be okay because times are tough right now and the dust needs to settle, there's no excuse not to support somebody on social media anymore because social media is free. There's obviously Twitter, there's obviously Instagram, Facebook, websites, checking out somebody's website, following them, engaging with them, because that means a lot too. You know, if you just go and like somebody's page and like a post they put up of their Kickstarter, or if they put their Kickstarter on their Facebook and you share it onto your wall, you never know who's going to be looking at it and where that can lead to. And it is so crucial right now, and there's no excuses anymore because it's free. The only
Right.
excuse you have is if you don't have electricity or internet. And if that's the case, I want to help you because clearly you're in a dire situation. And then secondly, and more importantly, I want to know how you're watching me with all that electricity or internet. Because there's a business opportunity for me to get rich and for you to get rich too. Because we can introduce a whole new technology to people to watch without electricity and internet, Facebook live streams. And there's an abundance of money to be made. And so you should probably get in contact with me. And given that you have this technology, it shouldn't be that hard. And I like money, and I would like to make some money, and we can make a lot of money together. So that's your only excuse. And I just gave you an opportunity to make a lot of money so that you can actually go take some back to Kickstarter, and you can get yourself out of that so you can actually get internet and electricity instead. So that's the only excuse why you should not be backing anything on social media or following on social media and engaging on social media and backing a project. Anything shy of that, there's no excuse. Social media is free, and then if you have money, you should go throw it out at Kickstarter.
Right. There you go.
And I think that's a wrap right there.
Did you drop the mic on that one? Drop the mic.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a pen. That wasn't a mic.